Hey neighbors, it's Brad at eTrailer, and today I want to walk you through a look and the installation of the Roadmaster brake light switch on a 2020 Chevrolet Equinox. The brake light switch gives you a signal because you cannot tie into the factory wire on this vehicle. The reason you need this signal is because you're using a braking system. The switch has a plunger, and when the brake pedal is depressed, that plunger extends, sending the signal to your braking system. Now I want to show you how we install it. So to make installation a little bit easier on our stoplight switch, this is going to really help by mounting it to the bracket before we get there. And as far as adjustability, it's not super necessary to do that now. We can further adjust that once it's installed, but having this in place is going to make it a lot easier than trying to thread it through. Now you can see the bracket here bends. It's going to mount to a bolt underneath the dash, and this is going to go to where your brake pedal goes. Now this should rest against the plunger, but again, we can adjust that later. So this is the orientation that you need to have it. Now, another thing that's going to make this easier is attaching extra wiring to it. That way you're not splicing while you're under the dash. So you have two black wires, and it does not matter which one you use, but you're going to be running one cable to the battery and one to your indicator light. So to mount the bracket, there's a 13mm bolt that's on the underside of the steering column. It's kind of a pain to get to, but that's where we're going to be mounting our bracket. So in order to do that, we're going to remove a few interior pieces to gain a little better access. Okay, so we have our plastic shield that goes underneath the steering wheel. So I've removed that by taking 3 7mm bolts out from these spots. Now you will have a plug up here, which is for your lights, so you will need to unplug that. And then there's also going to be an Hvac duct that runs across, and that's as simple as an interior popper. Using your tool here, you can separate that. Now your hood release is also going to be attached to that, but that's as simple as pushing this tab down and it'll slide forward and out. Using an extension, we're going to take that 13mm nut off, and this will go on that stud, and I'm just going to hand tighten it on there. We're going to tighten that up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the bracket up flush against the top, and what we're looking for is this little plunger is going to rest on this spot here. So kind of guide it as it goes, and she's tight. Now it's a little crooked there, so I'm going to loosen it back up and adjust it to where it's sitting on this flat part. So we're looking for the plunger to be depressed when the pedal is at rest, and when you push the pedal down, it should fully extend. Now this one, obviously you can see the bracket moving. So what we're gonna do is put a 17 on that back locking nut there, and we're just gonna bring this back. So, and then we can test as necessary. So this is kind of hard to see here, but right where that sits on that, it should fully extend out when pressed in. Now we're still having play here, so I'm gonna keep dialing it back. So now we're going to run our red wire to our power supply, which is our battery in our engine compartment. So there's a rubber grommet that feeds through the firewall. Now, since you're installing this system, you're also going to be installing the rest of the braking system, which has an air line run through it that goes from our actuator to the unit itself. So we're going to use the little extra slack that we have, and we're going to tape our wire onto here and use that air hose to pull it through. Okay, so we have that fed through, and now we have our power ready to go to our battery. So with our red wire, we're going to attach it to this fuse holder using a heat shrink butt connector, and then on our other side we have a ring terminal, and this is going to go to our battery. Now we're not going to install it to our battery yet until we have the rest of our components done. It's also important to not have your fuse in when attaching it to the battery. So we're going to take our green wire. Earlier I said it's going to an indicator light. Now with this system that we're using the coach link on our Stay and Play Duo, and this sends the signal to your motor coach, which will tell you if the braking system is working or not. So instead of using the indicator light, we'll be attaching our green wire to our red wire, and this will be our ground. So with our connections made here and under the hood, we can now install our fuse and test it to see if it's good. So that's a look at the Roadmaster brake light switch on a 2020 Chevrolet Equinox.